All right, folks, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune because it's time for another week of the Rec Poker Podcast. Holy cow, folks, we made it. It's Monday night. We're here hanging out over Zoom. I have the best freaking job in the world. I get to hang out with my poker pals and talk about poker every Monday night on the Rec Poker Podcast. This is the chats edition of the podcast, but it's going to feel like a bit of a forums edition because the guest this week is kind of the group itself, reflecting on some recent experiences in the World Series of Poker in Las Vegas. Looking forward to an event at Running Aces that's coming up right around the corner, and maybe taking some general questions from the YouTube chat. And of course, we're going to be giving away a prize tonight, just like we do every week. And without the one and only Chris Jones, we've got John Somsky running the production booth, and I'm going to pull my own magical dice out here and see if we can roll a couple ones en route to awarding a fantastic prize to a new winner tonight. So in case I didn't mention it, my name's Jim Reid. I'm Blusterini in the home game and at RecPoker Jim on Twitter. And I'm one of the RECing Crew. The RECing Crew are the leadership panel here at RecPoker. And if you want to find out more about me or the rest of the RECing Crew, you can go to rec.poker/crew. But fear not, if you're not near a phone or a mobile device or a laptop or a desktop or a tablet, you can just listen up because you're going to meet a few of the RECing Crew members right here, right now on the show.
My name is Eric Jin. I am Rec Binkley on Twitter. You can find me playing in the home games as COM Binkley or posting in the forums just as Binkley.
And I am John Somsky. I am Poker Geek MN everywhere.
And I'm Rob Washam, and I'm Radman50 just about everywhere.
So my thanks to everyone on the RECing Crew for all their help tonight and every week and month that we put on our fun stuff here at Rec Poker. If anyone's having any trouble with any audio issues or anything, just let us know here in the chat. It is a hard thing. We've got John Somsky sitting in the production booth tonight instead of our Chris Jones, and we're all excited to be here. So I guess I should thank the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino because we're going to be seeing them about a month from now on August 4th and 5th. That's a Friday, Saturday. Is going to be our next Rec Poker weekend at Running Aces, which is going to be super fun. I'm going to try and come in a day early and stay a day late. I was so rushed last time. I want to be able to take some time, enjoy the state of Minnesota, play some cash, hang out with some friends. If you're in town or if you're nearby for those 2 days, come out and join us. There'll be some social activities. There'll be some tournaments. We're going to give away a bunch of prizes. And of course, anytime there's a Rec Poker road trip, I'll also be bringing the pins with me. So if you spot me, make sure you take 5 minutes and let's go check the spreadsheet that John Somsky runs, the amazing pin spreadsheet, and see if you can be awarded any pins that you've earned in your time here. So I thought a couple things we'd go over tonight. We'd talk a little bit about what was going on down the WSOP this year. We had a phenomenal time at the Rec Poker meetup game at the MGM Grand Casino, which was phenomenal. And Eric and I got to go head to head in a couple hands at the cash tables there. I've got some hands from the monster stack that I thought would be interesting to go over, and maybe just a couple things that we learned from our travels, or maybe a couple things that we wish we'd learned that might make it a little more effective or a little more fun next year. So John and Rob, I know you guys were not able to make the trip this year. Can I ask you, from the outsider's perspective, was there anything in particular that you missed now that I know it's not over yet, the main event's just kicking off, so some would say that the fun's about to begin, but with the bulk of the World Series in the rearview mirror, is there anything that you feel like, bummer I missed that, or I can't wait for next year to take advantage of it? What about you, Rob?
I'd say the Rec Poker meetup game would be the thing I missed the most. I think that would have been a absolute gas. I mean, I could play tournaments anytime, right? I mean, but how often do you get a chance to get together with all this group of people from all over the world, really? Because there's people from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, different states. So yeah, that's what I miss the most.
Yeah, good one, John.
Yeah, I think I would have really enjoyed making it to the Rec Poker meetup as well. I'd like to play again in the seniors tournament. I've done that a couple of times.
Yes.
And I think that, Obviously, it must be an easy game if they let me play in it. So.
You know, everyone that I talked to throughout the entire series kept mentioning how much they enjoyed the seniors event. Like everybody that was eligible to play made it sound as though that was the event that they looked forward to more than any other. I looked at the chart. I mean, I looked at the structure sheet. It's a very similar structure to all the other bracelet events of that type. What makes it so fun and cool and interesting? Like, what is it about that tournament itself that stands out?
I think, first of all, the people who play it are, let's just say, more mature than your average player in the other tournaments. And, you know, similar to the ladies event or some of the other specialized events, they're really there to have fun and to enjoy themselves. So it really is more of a, you know, everyone getting together to have fun, as opposed to being a cutthroat type of game. And on the senior side, you know, some of them are just happy they're still able to play and don't know how many more shots they're going to get. So there you go.
Yeah, I think when you take away the European players with hoodies and headphones, and all the seriousness, you end up with a bunch of old timers that just want to sit around and have some fun. And I think that's really what it's all about. And I think there's a comfort level there too for senior players, because, you know, a lot of the bigger events are filled with, like I say, young guns that are out there to try to win a bracelet, try to steal your soul or whatever it is, you know. So I think it's kind of a nice change of pace.
Yep, I believe it. We got some comments in from the chat here. Donna saying that, yeah, hello all. Hi, Donna. That WSOP has got your sleep pattern screwy. You're not alone, Donna. Holy cow. I guess that's one of the things we can talk about as we kind of review what the series was like. I found it really hard to sleep down there. This was the longest I'd been down in a row. I think it was 16 or 17 days in a row. And I did not take a break halfway through just to sleep all day or get out to the desert or something like that. So that was one lesson that I learned, was if you're going to be down there for more than a week and a half, really take that day in the middle and just get caught up on your sleep. I found, I don't know if it was the excitement or the lights or the sounds, but it was hard for me to get more than like 5 hours sleep in a row. And that definitely caused me to lose some focus at the tables later. And there was one event near the end of the trip. It was the last day I was starting tournaments. It was the Salute to Warriors event, where I'm pretty sure I was actually nodding off at the table. So you know, you're giving up an edge when you're only conscious for a portion of the hands. That's going to make it a little harder to crush souls. So that was one thing. So I think something as simple as maybe bringing down like a sleep mask and some earplugs might have actually like improved my ROI, as crazy as that sounds. It's also so dry. They've got the air conditioning running in the hotels and in the conference rooms and everything, that maybe even like a little travel humidifier. I mean, I guess I'm just officially an old person now. These are the kind of things that I'm like, oh no, I need my comfort humidifier when I travel down to Las Vegas. But I was waking up in the middle of the night all dry and congested and, like not feeling great. And, I think that it contributes to not being fresh and sort of not being sharp.
You don't qualify for the seniors event, right? So you cannot officially be called old yet.
Okay, I think that's probably true. Although there's some salt in the pepper. Zoom does a good job of hiding it.
You've got like 9 more years before you're even qualified to get into seniors. So you young pup.
I think a more appropriate word might just be wimp rather than.
Oh yes, John. Yeah,
I like
that's
it.
fair.
I like it, John.
I would take that. I'll accept that. I definitely felt like it. I did not feel like I was at my best. That's for sure. Donna says a bowl of water in the room works. That's a great idea. Just to have it sort of contributing to the humidity level in the room. That makes a lot of sense. I like that. There was one guy at one of our tables. an actual old fellow. I don't think he'd complain that I was describing him as old. He was older than anyone on this panel. Yes, including you. Well, including all three of you.
Including me?
Including you, Eric. Yeah.
Okay.
Even
And-
you, Eric.
And he had a whole, like, he had some gear that he brought with him to make sure he was comfortable. He had like a cushion to sit on because some of the seats in the ballroom aren't particularly comfortable. He had another inflatable cushion to put like behind his back so that he'd be able to like keep his posture. I thought that was really smart. I mean, one of the things that you got to do is just like know what you need, right? Like the more I do these trips, the more I realize, like, yeah, it would be great if I could just come down there and be an android and just not need anything and power fully on. But knowing what you need, knowing what is going to give you a little extra edge, I thought that was pretty savvy. A couple other rules or a couple other things that we haven't mentioned. We do sort of these WSOP prep episodes every year or two. One of the things that didn't make the cut this year, or that we didn't know in time, when you get a table change. So when you register, you get a slip with your table number and your seat number on it. And you go to that table and you've got this physical copy of where you're supposed to be. So after break, you know where to go. When they break the tables, you just get sent to a new table with a table card, and you no longer have that hard copy. So this didn't come up with me, but one person did mention, I thought this was a good enough idea to mention it on the show. Take a photo. So take a photo of your seat card, or take a photo just before you go. Just look up and take a photo of the table sign above your table so that when you come back from break, you know where you're going to be, because some people definitely didn't do that. And you're wandering a room with, I mean, it's not hyperbole to say like 1,000 poker tables. It's going to be hard to find that spot. Eric, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I did hear of that. I didn't actually take a picture because I did text somebody to say, hey, I'm at this new table. So I was like, well, if I forget, I'll know I text somebody so I can look back on my text. But yeah, somewhere on your phone or to record it.
That's somewhere. A good one.
And there have been more than one stories of someone coming back and finding someone else playing their stack, when they get if they get back a little bit late from break. So you got to be careful of that.
Yeah, because it's not just you that might be confused, right? Someone else might be confused and end up in your seat. So that was one thing. The other thing I would say is, take a photo of your chips when you go on break. Take a photo of your chips before you go on the color up break. I don't know if they're admissible if it gets to the point of having some, issue, but it's just got to help. It's got to help having a little extra evidence on your side. If you can do a timestamp or something, that probably be better.
I think if you are concerned about that and you come back and realize that your chip stack is inaccurate, you can go to the dealer and they'll call the floor, and at the least, if they're, if you're convinced enough and you show them a picture, they can go back to the cameras and look to see what happened, because the cameras are playing all the time. So
if anything, I'm taking a picture. I'm going to post it on some social media anyway, or for my own records. So
like, and that's a habit that I don't know. I have to kind of decide how involved in social media I want to get. For me, social media is Twitter. I just love the hellscape. Apparently, we'll see how long we have it. But I'm a pretty active tweeter at the tables, and so I tend to, like Eric's saying, my table number, my chip stack, those are usually going out before break anyway, because I want people to be sending the run good to the right seat. That sometimes that's been a problem where I've changed tables. They're still sending the run good to the old table, and then I'm not getting it at the new table. And that's how you bust tournaments, folks. It's just that simple. You need to make sure the run good's going to the correct seat. But I kind of struggle a bit, and I'd love to know your take on this, gang. The more you're into that, there's an element of you just don't have as much focus, be paying attention to what's actually happening at the table. Is there like a perfect balance to be struck there, or should we just have our phones away and just be paying attention only to the table all the time? What do people think about that?
So one thing I noticed, some dealers actually, I had one deal that stood out, and he was a he was correct. He was a real stickler about phones away. You know, he was like, as he dealt, it's like, hey, phone's down, because you know
Yep.
everybody is involved in the hand. Once you're at fold, then you can pick up your phone. But he was real good about reminding, real stickler about that, which I think was good. But unfortunately, it's inconsistent. Some dealers
Mhm.
don't care about that. But I was just wanted to put that in.
It does slow the game down when everyone's got their phones out and have to, take that extra time to put it down, then, deal with their cards. John?
Yeah, I think it really matters on the type of person you are. There are some people who, by getting into the community aspect, in other words, sharing their things on social media and interacting them, that energizes them and allows them to play better. For me, I find it more of a distraction. So I
Mhm.
don't tend to do a lot of social media when I am playing, because otherwise I will tend to start playing on autopilot, and not really thinking through my hands. And I played enough poker that it is super easy for me to play on autopilot, but I don't play super well on autopilot. So I really do need to be concentrating.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think I generally on breaks, I might, send an update to people that know I'm playing and are interested. Other than that, I'm not on social media at all during the playing session. If I pick up my phone, it's generally to take a note of what's going on at the table.
Mhm. Well, that's actually one thing I want to talk about, Rob, because you're so good at taking notes at the table, paying attention to the action, making notes on players. This isn't hyperbole. I often, when I think like, okay, how can I be more like Rob when I'm getting ready for a live event? I do. And I'm like, okay, like what are the kind of notes that Rob's going to be taking? Because you have this excellent recall about the details of the hand. So I was doing some reporting for poker.org on the trip, and I was really struggling with coming up with interesting hands, because by the time you realize that the hand is going to be interesting, it's already too late to start paying attention. So you really have to have been paying attention the whole time. And I realized that I actually don't pay that much attention at the beginning of the hand. Like, and maybe I'll get a sense, oh, that guy opened, but I'm not really noting exactly what size they open to, which is dumb because some people change it up and you really should be paying attention to that. And, I was like starting to pay attention on the flop or on the turn, but I wouldn't know, who's the pre-flop raiser, if it's multi-way, or like, who had taken what action on the flop or something like that. Rob, I wanted to ask you specifically. So like how do you do that? Do you actually just like maintain focus the entire time? How do you know when it's time to start paying attention to a hand? Or what are some tricks of the trade that allow you to take such excellent notes that are applicable and accurate without just draining the battery of your brain the whole time?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's just rote. It just happens, and you don't really need to take note of it. What I typically do is look for variations of what I think is GTO. Because everything today is GTO. We're studying GTO, so you look at people's opening sizes. If they're opening something that I wouldn't open, I take note of it and I go, okay, where is this guy coming from? Because I'm looking at it from all of the books that we've done, all the GTO study we've done. Here's what I think would be the proper bet size according to Michael Acevedo. So
Right.
so when somebody's not doing that, I'm wondering, okay, what is he doing? Why is he doing it? And then anytime, if you get a couple of limpers and then somebody raises to 3 big blinds, you go, well, what is he trying to accomplish with that 3 big blinds? Does he just know that he's supposed to open? And so he's just
Right.
opening his normal size. He's not paying attention to the fact that there's limpers. So I look for those oddities. I don't look for the standard stuff so much. If I see a guy opening 2.5, the big blind's calling, it's a standard bread and butter spot, and the big blind gets a flop like ace queen 7, and he bets, he's going to bet 100% of the time at a small sizing. And then the big blind folds, you go, okay, that's standard. No big deal. So I'm always looking for the things that are not standard. And I'm taking note of that more than the other stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because if it's mostly what we're looking to do is we're going to assume that people are acting normally, because that's what our assumptions typically lead us to do. And then the question is, we just need to pay attention when they deviate from that norm, and
Right.
and in which direction, and that kind of thing. So that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, and I did enjoy that. I enjoyed submitting some hands to poker.org's first hand hands program. It's the first year they're doing that, and that was cool. Had some fun stories coming out on the poker table. Folks can go check that out. I documented most of my stuff on Twitter. So if people want to go, I'm at RecPoker Jim, and scroll back for a couple of weeks, you'll see a lot of posts around hands in the tournaments, or various stories or fun things that I enjoyed when I was down there. So folks can check that out. A couple other
Another thing that I
Rob,
do when I'm logging my tournaments,
yes.
I'll start at the beginning of the tournament. I'll put in what my chip stack is and what the blinds are. And then I'll, if there's something interesting happens, I'll put a little note of what happened, if there's a big hand or something. And if nothing happens, well, the next thing on my OneNote will be what my stack is at the next blind level. And then every blind level, I just kind of update. And then in between, if there's any interesting hands, I can put them in, and I don't have to concern myself with my note of saying what the blinds are, what my stack size are, because I've already gotten that at the beginning of each blind level.
I love that.
So that's kind of how I can go back and track how I did throughout the tournament, and what big things have happened.
Yeah, I do it similarly. I use my notes app in my phone, and I'll make a new app for each, or I'll make a new note for the tournament that I'm in. And then, like you say, Rob, I just put, when the blinds go up, I write them in. And if there's a hand that blind level, it appears there. And if there isn't, you just see the next blind level. And that's great. It helps to keep them organized. And you never have to worry about the actual chips counts pre-flop, which does make it easier. A couple other things that, they occur to us every year where we're down there, but I'll just say, table your hand. Just table your hand every time, even if it's bluffing, even if you didn't win. I saw a few people get really upset because someone else tabled and they thought they folded, so they mucked, but then they looked more closely at their opponent's cards and realized they had a bigger two pair or something like that. Once they're mucked, they're mucked. So table your cards. And the other part of that would be verbalize your action. I saw several times, especially in the Paris room, the 100s, the 500s, and the 5000s were all a dark brown or a dark red or a black, and they looked very, very similar. And there were a few times where someone put out 5,000 chips saying that they were 500 chips. Eric saying, yeah, he's one of them. He's one of them. Yeah, it happens to the best of it. I mean, I've done it. I did it last year. And it was that thing where I actually had aces. And so people thought I was angling because I'd used the bigger chips, but I was just flustered and picked the wrong chip size. Eric, what was your situation?
Yeah, it's funny because at our table, again, it was I played the seniors deep stack.
Well, you're not old enough to play the seniors.
Oh yeah, Actually, when I sat at the table, the guy next to me looked at me, he's like, "You're 50." I was like, "No, I'm older than 50. Not much older, but I'm older than 50."
So you had
so they were just we were just talking about about the colors, and what I noticed on these chips right there, there's these just subtle. It's one's like tan, one's brown, one's like orange tan, close, and on the chip it's in big letters says WSOP, and then the smallest of letters it says 100, 500, 5,000, and yeah, we had just did it, and I threw out and then I I was like, "Ugh, I hate when I misclick live. It's
Yeah, the
just
live
the
misclick.
live misclick, and everybody's looking at me. And after everybody folded, because I made it this ridiculous 10x pot bet, right? And they're like, we were just talking about that. I was like, yeah, I know. And later on, I did it with aces opening. I'm like,
Yeah. And when it happens, you have to like pretend it's on purpose, right? You have to like try and pull it off in real
well, I
time.
mean, yeah, there's nothing for you to do, really. Is
I
right? You
usually
can
just say, "Oh shit."
Right. Yeah, yeah. So it does happen, folks. But if you verbalize it, then it doesn't matter what color chips you put out. If you just say raise to 1,500, if you throw three 5,000 chips out, it's still a raise to 1,500. So that's just one. Just verbalize. And if you're, sometimes if you're worried about like giving away a level of excitement or stress in your voice, then I guess there's an argument. But then just look really closely at the chips in those
I think
moments.
my biggest thing is I forget about the one chip rule sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go to raise, and I'll throw in the chip to raise. And then as it's hitting the felt, I go, oh, raise.
Yeah.
Of course, somebody sees that the chip hit the felt before I said raise. So now they're going to tell me that I can't raise.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, all right, fine.
Yeah,
It's a
I
call.
learned that my very, very, very first WSOP experience.
I still do it sometimes. God, it just drives me crazy.
Well, because I was an online player, and I was like, I put in, it's 5,000 and the blinds are 1,000. Obviously, it's a raise, and they're like, okay, call. I'm like, what? No. And they, people at the table explained to me. I'm like,
Yep. Yeah, and,
So
and let's explain to the folks at home. So just in case you're not sure what we're talking about here. So in order to speed up play, like there's good reasons for all these rules. Sometimes the reasons why get lost over time. But they're usually to remove angling from the game, to remove ambiguity, and to speed the game along. So if the blinds are 250, 500, that's a bad example, 200, 500, because that's a level that actually exists, then if you throw in one chip higher than a bet, it's considered a call. No matter if it's a 5,000 chip or a 25,000 chip, if you just throw one chip in, it's considered a call. And that makes it easy for the dealer to just continue the action. They can make change when you need to. So if you're trying to raise to 1,000 and you put in 1,000 chip, you actually have to say raise, because otherwise it'll be taken as a call. Similarly, if you put in two 1,000 chips, then that would be a raise to 2,000 because you're putting in multiple chips. But that's one. And then the opposite side of that is the string bet, which I saw a couple times as well. And just like Eric's talking about, so this was player in the tag team event, someone who was obviously an experienced player, but like they were savvy. They had talked about like equity. They knew how many outs they needed for something. They were an experienced player, but I guarantee you they were online experienced because they were kind of clumsy with their chips and the mechanics of playing live, which is something that I think we all kind of go through as we're learning live, whether we played online or not. And the string bet is the sort of, people say, I call and I raise you, or they put in that first chip and then they put in more chips, and that is not allowed.
I'll see your 500 and
that's right. The Rob
that's
from the
they saw that in a movie once, so they
yes,
used
exactly.
it at the poker table, and that's so bad.
we were having some fun with that in the meetup game with Rob, but Rob's such a pro. He's like, I see your 500, and then he'd allow this pause, and then that would like, oh, that's it. That's all the action, because he knows you can't do a string bet. So similarly, if you like reach over the bet line or the pass line with a bunch of chips in your hand, you're not allowed to just like slowly drip them down onto the table and then stop when you start to see a negative reaction from your opponent. So it has to be kind of clear motions. Again, if you're not going to verbalize, use the exact number of chips that you intend to use, and that's just another way that we kind of remove some ambiguity, remove some angle shooting from the game. Almost all the time these days, it's an accident when something like that happens or an oversight. But there are rules against it to protect the security of the game. So we're getting some fun comments here in the chat. Gibber, the real Jim, says, yeah, that Nevada climate is dry. I have to constantly drink water. That would be another tip. Make sure you get that water bottle filled. So I was traveling with mine, and they were really good. They had water out at all the tournament spaces. You could go fill your bottle. And don't be shy about that. I would say that's definitely something to stay on top of. Luke O'Driscoll, I expect, says, I've seen people take a selfie from the table of the stack with them behind it. Yep, that's perfect. That makes sense too. Especially if you can like include the tournament clock somehow in that or something like that. I can see that would be even more helpful. Ben says he tried to like every tweet. Yeah, thanks, Ben. That's awesome. Luke says one of the RECing Crew once mentioned an app or a keyboard that was good for note taking. We did talk about that in one of the forums editions. It was Kim Kilroy, and it's the Hand History keyboard. And if you go to the App Store, it's free. HH Keyboard is the name of it. If you download it and install it, then you can use it in all the different apps that you use to take notes in. And it's got like clubs and spades and hearts and diamonds and like river and turn and stuff like that.
I think there's more than one version of it, or app, because I saw Kim's and I had one that was just slightly different. So I think there might be more than one available, but it's go search it out.
Definitely,
it's useful.
Definitely worthwhile to download it. It's free. I personally use OneNote because with OneNote, I can access it on my PC and on my phone. So it automatically will upload into the cloud and I can just call it up on my PC. So when I'm looking later on to do some analysis, it's very easy to do on my PC.
Nice.
So that's why I like to use an app like OneNote.
Good thinking. John, did you have something there?
I did earlier, but now I can't remember so much.
Keep fishing.
Oh,
keep
I
fishing.
remember. I was just going to mention that when you're playing live, you have to be aware of where you're playing and ask about specific rules. For example, at some places, if you bring chips in your hand and bring them forward, then that entire chip stack is your bet. You are not allowed to cut out chips and bring anything back. Where I play here in Minnesota, I typically am able to bring out a stack, cut some out, and then say the amount. When in doubt, just verbalize your action before you do anything, because then that will take precedent. And if you accidentally say 5 million when it's 1,000, 2,000 level and no one has 5 million chips, the dealer will allow you to correct yourself then. Whereas if you just are putting the chips out, then you're kind of stuck with whatever action you happen to take.
Yep. We got a couple other questions from Luke here in the chat, and this is right in what we're talking about tonight. So he said tips for note taking or recommended apps, that kind of thing. I think it kind of depends what you're taking notes for. So if it's something like this where I'm taking notes on hands because I want to review them later or share them with my friends or bring them on the pod or take them to a coach or something, then I like this way that we're doing it here, using a note app and kind of putting the blinds for each level in. I think whatever app you use for that, that's a good way to do it. If you're playing cash games, then you're typically going to be taking notes on players more than on hands, because you're going to be playing, I mean, depending on the game. What a lot of the times when I play cash, I'm hoping to be playing with these players again. So I try and make notes that'll make it easier for me to remember how to play with them. I actually use an app called Trello for that, because you get individual cards that you can kind of put in a column. And so I play in a home game near me, well, not near enough me, but closer than Niagara or Montreal. That's all I'll say about that. And there's a lot of regular players in there. So when I get seated at a table, I can just pull up the 8 cards that are to do with those players, and then boom, they're right there in front of me. I don't have to go scrolling through a whole notes app to get to the notes I have on that particular player. So that works for me. But what mostly matters is that it's something that you find helpful, that it's easy for you to use, that you're naturally inclined to use, because if you don't use it, it won't no matter how rigorous it is, it won't be helpful. We
Yeah,
get some.
I find that very true. When I'm playing in a tournament, I'm not so much concerned about taking notes on the players because you're bound to get changed. Your table's going to get changed, and you're going to be seeing a whole new group of players. So you're more concerned about hands and just taking mental notes on players. But then I used to play at the same place all the time up in Grand Casino Mille Lacs when they used to have tournaments every day. And I was playing against the same people all the time. So I would be taking notes on people in those tournaments rather than hands that I played, because I know I was going to see these people again next weekend and the next weekend.
Yeah.
Anytime I played, I'd see the same people. So it depends on what your action is, what you're trying to take note of, the people or the hands, and that'll kind of give you an idea of how to take notes.
Yep. Luke says he uses a note program, but he's not mastered a shorthand method, and it's clumsy and time consuming. Yeah, so I think a hand history keyboard might help with that, Luke. And then just doing it more, just getting more reps in, that'll help as well. The shorthand, you're the only one that needs to understand it. So be as brief and short as you need to make it go quickly. And for you to be able to recall it, just try and make sure that you get the numbers right, you get the suits right. You can probably put the pieces together yourself afterwards. Another tip would be make pretty bare bones notes while you're at the table, but allocate some time at the end of the tournament to actually review your notes and fill in the details then. You're probably still going to have some of that information fresh in your mind, but if you go to sleep and wake up the next morning, it's going to be too late to put all the details down at that point. So if you feel like it's too draining or taxing to be doing a real robust reporting job in real time, just put a skeleton down there and give yourself permission to fill it in at the end of the night. But then you go make sure you do that, even if you're feeling dumb or angry because you busted, which is what happens like 85 to 90% of the time we enter these tournaments, right? So that was another thing, I guess. You just have to remember how frequently losing is a part of this tournament schedule. I mean, you get your head around it. Only 10 to 15% of the players get paid. So 85 to 90% of the time you just bust with nothing. But it's one thing when you have a rough weekend, you play 3 or 4 tournaments and you bust them all and you're like, oh, it's variance, but when you're down there for a full stretch, most people are just going to go bust, 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 min cash, bust, bust, bust. It can be a pretty, negatively reinforcing experience if you're not really prepared for it. So you really have to, you're gonna know by the time you get back, if you didn't know by the time you got down there, just what that can entail. And it can be a little tough. Some other comments here from the chat. A lot of people commiserating with us, Eric, about having made those mechanical errors. String bets or misclicks, live misclicks at the table. Those are always fun. Yeah, Ben says, I think it's an initiation playing live, putting in one chip, thinking it's a raise. Yeah, I think that's a good way of thinking about it, Ben. Now you're officially part of the club. Phil says, I get tilted when someone brings out a full stack and only bets a couple. Right, like when they bring forward a big stack of chips, they drop a couple in and then they pull it back. Yeah, and that's another thing to look at from room to room, like John was pointing out. Some of the another thing, we're talking about tournaments mostly, but at the cash tables as well, straddle rules will differ widely from casino to casino, and some of them are pretty weird. Like some of them having to do with what positions can or can't, or does the action start on the small blind or under the gun after, or does it skip the straddle if there's not a raise in front, or there's a lot of different ways that can be organized. So that would be another thing to just ask your room, because everyone has their own rules there. Donna says my notes would be explicit note, deadhead, etc. Yes, that's right. Hey, that kind of stuff can help too. We have to put people in boxes. Phil says my brain doesn't work fast enough to write down notes during a tournament. None of our brains work that fast. But I think your brain, Phil, works fast enough to be able to jot down a couple details of it just to flesh them out later. And if you were someone who did have any friends, then maybe you could share them with some friends afterwards. Like I'm not sure that's actionable for you in particular, Phil. But maybe one day, keep it up. Keep being nice to people. Gibber says, bust, too soon, Jim. Yep, I hear you, buddy. And Donna says, hand history for me is a nope. Can't even remember my name sometimes. Never mind remembering where I left my keys, phone, and glasses. Yeah, that's right. But that's why you need the notes. That's why you need the notes, because our minds are terrible narrators. Like when I get back from a session, maybe a couple hands, if I'm feeling real salty about how they turned out, they'll be burned into my brain. Maybe Eric and I can get into one of those a little later. But otherwise, I definitely need to be making some notes, or else I'm not going to remember. The one other thing that occurred to me, well, there's two, I guess. The one thing was, in these MTTs, you're always racing the clock, unless they're like 1 hour levels. And if you go back to @RecPoker Jim, you'll get a sense of how much I enjoy 1 hour levels, those sexy 1 hour levels. But unless they're 1 hour levels, the blinds are going to go up faster than you think, and you're kind of racing to maintain a stack that has fold equity. And it's easy to get into the trap where you're playing, you don't want to be reckless. You're waiting for your spot. You've got 25 big blinds, so there's no rush. And then you get down to the blinds go up, and now you've got 19 big blinds, and then you go card dead for like 2 orbits, and now you've got 14 big blinds. And now you don't have any fold equity, and you actually have to have a good hand if you're going to shove, because otherwise, like, people are not going to be afraid to snap you off and eliminate you from the tournament. So I would say one thing that people should remember is to, don't be so conservative when you've got that 20 to 25 big blind stack. Don't be afraid to dust it off there, because if you don't take a shot there, you're going to be soon in the point where you really have to make a hand, and making a hand is the toughest way to win a hand in poker. So you don't want to put yourself at the mercy of the poker gods that much. Rob, you look like you've got something to.
I think Phil Hellmuth would take exception to that.
Oh,
he's the master of the short stack, and if you read the news lately, he just made his 17th World Series of Poker bracelet.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yesterday. So
yeah.
But he's a short stack ninja kind of guy, and I don't think he would agree with you that he waits for the right spot to do it. He's not just going to arbitrarily say, "Oh, I got an ace. They got 20 big blinds. Let's go."
Right.
So I think there's different, and I guess it depends on your competition too, who you're up against. But I don't know. I think there's times when you can wait for those spots. You don't have to be overly aggressive when you're at 20 big blinds. But I know what you're saying. There's times where you're in a turbo and you want to get, you need to make something happen. But I just want to caution people. It might not necessarily be the right way to go.
No, I appreciate that. And I don't mean to say take a negative EV spot, but if it's one that you're sort of on the fence about, should I or shouldn't I? Just look up at the tournament clock and see how much time you've got left. Because once you do get short, as Rob is saying here, I think, there's good ways to play a short stack, but most of them involve having a good hand. Once you get short like that, you just lose some of the fold equity that then you really do have to be patient. You really do have to wait for an actual, big plus EV spot, because you're just not going to be able to add that kind of fold equity to it. Some other fun stuff in the chat here. Yeah, I know, Phil, you're right. Actually, Phil did say something nice about me on Twitter yesterday. I should be nicer to him, or else he'll stop doing that and go back to the normal Phil stuff. But I did appreciate that, Phil. Thank you. I'm glad that you enjoyed the peanut butter and jam sandwich updates. That did not go unnoticed. Yeah, and Donna says, make sure you fold jacks pre. That's a pretty good rule. That's how Jim Gibson and I busted the tag team event. A player opened in early position. I shoved over top and got called by kings and aces behind me. which is not exactly what you hope to see when you get to roll over pocket jacks.
Did you look left before acting?
Not enough. I didn't look closely enough, because I bet one of these guys was indicating that they were interested. Another good note, look
Holding
left.
his cards and with
Yeah.
a stack of chips in his hand.
like-
Right, yeah.
I mean, that would be kind of an indication that he's ready
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah. That's a good point, especially in an event like the tag team, which is a pretty soft field, I find, because all the, a lot of good poker players are playing with their significant others or their brother or their sister or their buddy or something like that. So there's definitely some edges to be had there. Yeah, Gibber says the tag team was the only tournament I was in that I didn't bust. Bazing! Yes, I took that mantle on for Team J Squared, unfortunately. So Jim was consistently bringing chips together. He'd take a seat, put a bunch of chips together. He'd go take a break, and I'd sit down, lose a few, maybe get some of them back. It was generally, we were both doing okay. But every time I sat down, I had more chips than when I'd left, because Jim Gibson was really doing his magic there.
You probably do a lot better if you just, any hand that you're going to lose, fold pre. And
That's
just,
a good idea. That's a really good idea. I should be
What solver
employing that
told you
more
that
often.
there, John?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just common sense.
Yeah. In fact, as I'm so fond of saying, if you just win every flip when you're the short stack, you don't even have to get greedy. You don't even have to win the flips when you're the big stack. But if you just always win the flips when you're the short stack, things are going to go pretty well for you. Like, you really focus on winning those. If you had to pick, those would be the pots that are really most important.
Well, you should be a little more precise, because it's not necessarily flips. You want to win all of the all-ins.
All-ins, yes.
Right? Because you may be dominated,
Yeah.
so but
Great
you need
point.
to win all of the all-ins.
Great point. Yes, thanks. That's a
Or
really
you
good
may
one.
be dominating, and those don't always work out the same way you like it.
True.
Very true. Very true. And yeah, congratulations to Phil Hellmuth. I guess my second favorite Phil. There you go. On his 17th bracelet. I'd be excited if I was you as well, Philip Razor. Okay. So the last thing that I wanted to, this is something that I wish I had maintained in my mind the whole time, because this did come up a couple times. As you get short stacked, you sort of look down at your hand and you're like, oh, this is the hand. This is the time I'm going to shove. I've got a pocket pair, or I've got, a decent ace, or really like king, queen, or something like that. And then the action starts, and someone or a couple people take an action in front of you, and you're already primed to put your chips in the middle, because like you've already decided this is the hand, but it doesn't have to be the hand. Like if you've got the perfect hand to open shove, but someone opens in front of you, that doesn't mean you've got the perfect hand to 3-bet shove. And just because you've got like pocket jacks, and you've decided you're going to put your last 18 big blinds in, if someone opens under the gun and someone else 3-bets them, like you're allowed to fold and wait for a better spot in some of these spots. Like I was in a spot where it was open under the gun, 3-bet from early position, cold 4-bet for middle position, and I had jacks, and I just like happily threw them into the muck. I wasn't going anywhere near that mess. But there was another spot where I had pocket 3s, and I was getting really short, and I was in late position, and I was like, this is the hand. I've been waiting. I hadn't had a hand in like 4 orbits or something. I was just going to steal some blinds, and then someone opened in early position, and I was just like, all right, well, this is my hand. Let's go. And it was just I didn't have to take that chance. I did end up losing the hand. They had 2 overs, so it was like the best possible scenario for me. But like I put myself in a position where the best possible scenario is I'm flipping against 2 overs, and every other hand they have is a pocket pair, and I'm crushed, and they're never folding. So it just wasn't the right way to do it. So the advice that I've given before, I wish I'd taken myself, is you can look at your cards if you want to early, but don't get married to an action. And what you really should be doing is not really looking at your cards at all. Heaven forbid you give away some tell to the rest of the table about how excited you are or not excited you are. But also, it kind of taints your analysis of the action as well. So I think the best way to play poker is to observe the action and then decide what is the range of hands that I would take a call with, what are the range of hands I would take a raise with, and then look down and see, is your hand in one of those ranges? And if it's not, don't like pretend that it's a good idea to take that action with it just because you wanted to. This is how like Nate Mavis used to talk about the poker playing. You know, look down, see the action, decide what range of hands would be best, and then look at your cards and see if they fit into that range. It takes a lot of
Discipline.
work. Yeah, discipline, and you have to actually like build the ranges in your mind. But that's good
Well,
practice too.
I think when we play in a lot of the small tournaments, you get into the habit of just looking at your cards and not even worrying about it because nobody's looking at you. You're not looking at
Right.
anybody else. It's just like we're all just sitting around having fun, throwing chips around. But then you get in that WSOP environment where people are paying attention.
Mhm.
So now you have to do your due diligence and perform like they would. In other words, wait till the action's on you before you even look at your cards.
Eric?
I don't
Well,
entirely agree. I think there's choice. I mean, there's arguments both ways. The thing is, if you wait until the action's on you, they're guaranteed to be looking at you,
Yes. Yes.
right? But if you do it early, middle, but somebody may or may not be looking at you. I guess the way I treat it is, we all play online. It's good practice, whether or not, you think of yourself more as an online or live player, it's good practice to do online. How many of us don't look at the cards, wait until the action's on us on online? So for me, I have more reps of I know my hand, and then I watch the action. So for me, that feels natural.
Yep.
yeah, I think the important part is just to make sure that you are taking in all of the information prior to finalizing your decision. And one way, a crutch that people can use when playing live to help with that is by adding your cards as the last piece of information, because then you're more likely to take in everything else.
And I think for me, I kind of need that crutch sometimes because you know me, my chips are like magnetically attracted to the middle of the table. So I will often find myself like shoehorning my hand into a range that it might be a real tight squeeze for it to really get into that range, if you know what I'm saying. Where if I had like already decided, maybe I would let myself off the hook there and just, grumble fold instead of calling or instead of raising or something. So maybe that's more of a Jim thing. But I think you're right. And Eric, to Eric's point as well, if you look earlier, you also have more time to decide. You have more time to think about what are the actions that you could take. Maybe you're going to use that time. If you're thinking, oh, like this is a good 3-bet bluff candidate, then maybe someone opens in front of you and you got a little more time to think, oh, that guy's been opening a lot, I've got a blocker. I don't know. There's definitely arguments for both, but it was one thing I wish I just need to get a little better at not deciding when I look down, like how that hand's going to go.
I think one of the issues that we haven't talked about is how you react after you've seen your cards. Because if you look at your cards and you look down, and you got 2-7, well, you're just standing there waiting to fold, right? You're not really. So are you stoic enough in every instance that nobody else can get a read on what your potential action may be? You sit there with aces and all of a sudden you sit up straight and you're looking around, you're looking at your chips. How many do I got? How many has he got? I'm going to get some chips, or you got 2-7 and you're standing there with your cards in your hand waiting to fold and put them in the flop or in the muck. So that's the only caveat I'd say about looking at your hands too early. You got to make sure you are consistent with your actions so that nobody can pick up what your potential response is going to be.
Yep, I like that. So those were kind of the tricks and tips that came up. Otherwise, just like know where the bathrooms are. We've talked about that before. You know, get familiar with the location and the setup and where everything is, where you're going to need it. I stayed at the Horseshoe for the second week, which was really convenient because you're already in the building. You don't even have to cross a street to get there. You don't have to go outside where there's no air conditioning. And you can like even make it back to your room on break if you want to use your own bathroom or something like that. If you want to get some cold water out of the fridge, you know, you can take the elevator right down to the food court in the morning. If that's where you like to get breakfast. I just thought that was super convenient. I've stayed at the Flamingo before, which is right across the street, and that's also very convenient. They generally give good rates there. Some of the Flamingo rooms are a little run down, but they renovated a bunch of them. And I stayed at the Link for the first week of my trip. And the Link's a little further away, but you basically just cross a little courtyard and then you're in the Flamingo. And then you just walk through the Flamingo and you cross that street again. So I'd say that was also convenient.
So I used the monorail while I was there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I actually found that useful once you know where the stations are.
Yes.
When I first decided, okay, I'm gonna do the monorail, it's a bit of a trek to really find it. But once you do finally find it, then it is pretty convenient. You know, as long as where you want to go is on the route, which the Horseshoe is.
Yeah, the Horseshoe is, the MGM Grand is, I think Sahara is, like for the strip stuff, it is saved. I took it a few times on this trip, just where it was so hot outside. I had to lug stuff around like merch for the meetup game. I didn't really like to go through that. So like $5.50 for a monorail ticket felt pretty good. And I also found that was pretty easy. So I'd encourage people to do that. Shout out to Doug Behrens, who was my roommate at the Horseshoe. We had a fantastic time. It's typical of these events, like you hardly ever see anybody down there because you're just playing until you bust. And then if you're me, usually it's early enough in the day you can still go get on a cash game list and go have some fun over there. So we tried to do like breakfast. So we had a few people show up for a RecPoker breakfast. That was super fun. And we had our RecPoker meetup game, which I guess we can get into next, which is great. And of course, I should say shout out to Taylor Moss, who was my roommate for the first week at the Link and the mastermind behind the RecPoker vlog, which was super fun. And Taylor did all the heavy lifting. But if people want to get a sense of like the color of what the trip was like, if you go to our YouTube channel, there is a RecPoker vlog playlist with 5 episodes from that first week that Taylor put together.
Those were great.
Thanks,
Taylor
man.
did a great
He
job.
really
And
did. No, he did.
We had back when my kid was pretty young and he had a neighbor kid, we called him Too Slow Tommy because whenever his parents would call and say it's time to come home, he would take him forever to put his shoes on. We couldn't figure out what was going on.
Oh no. Yeah.
But I'm thinking maybe he got taught by the same person who taught you.
I think that must be it. That must have been what happened. Yeah. I take a long time to tie my shoes. Those shoes were very new. So, and I want to go, let's be honest about this. Taylor did not tell me that he was recording that. I had no idea that was going into the show until after him. I told him like, oh, sorry, Taylor, I got new shoes. Mrs. Bluffsterini got me these new shoes for the trip, and they're very stiff, and the laces aren't worked in yet. So you have to like tighten each one row by row. But I do take a long time to tie my shoes. I eventually did get the little like rubber inserts that you just put in, and now they're slip-ons. Thank God. Can you imagine being behind me at the airport in the security line?
Oh my God!
Right? Yeah, Rob, thank you.
TSA pre-check. I'll just say that. TSA pre-check.
Someone get this guy a Nexus card. Oh, good Lord. Yeah. But those were super fun. So mad respect for Taylor for putting that together. And Phil I'm glad Phil enjoyed the blog because we came at Phil pretty hard in one of those as well. But it was all in good fun, and I knew he would take it like a champ, which he did. So I had one hand from the Monster Maker, or from the Monster Stack, but I think we'll save that for the forums edition because that we can really talk about the hand there. But I want to talk about the RecPoker meetup game at the MGM Grand. That was spectacular. It was great to get some people. We got some Poker News folks down there. We got some 100K Studios folks down there. We got some folks from poker.org, a bunch of RecPoker members, some previous guests. So I think we had an Australian. Talk about people coming in from all the way across town around the world. Jim Langford was there from Australia. It was nice to meet him finally. Rob Adsom, Kim Kilroy and Stewie Carriage. I'm gonna forget a few people, but Lori. Yeah, sorry. Chad McBean, of course. Yeah, Lori Ann Persinger and her husband Rick. We had Sasha Sutton, who I think we're going to be talking to more and more. It was really nice to make that connection with her in person. And and I think what I liked most about it was a lot of these players are more comfortable playing tournaments and they're not real familiar with cash, but they knew this was going to be like a friendly game where they could come and dip a toe in.
Don't forget Jackie Burkhart.
Oh yeah, Jackie,
she made
who
a
totally
special
remembered.
Totally remembered and made a special point to show up.
That's right, Jackie. If you're listening, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having the recreational poker cause fixed so firmly in your mind that she moved hell and high water to make sure that she would be there at that meetup game that night. So it was so fun to see her face when I was like, Jackie, and she knew exactly what was going on and wasn't confused at all and sat down and took some of our chips for the next couple hours. Is that how you remember it, Eric?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that was fun. It was fun to get to know Jackie a little better. We'll be having her on the show at some point too. Super fun character. So that was a good one. We gave away some prizes. Some people helped themselves to some prizes, as you know, occasionally will happen when poker players get together in an unsupervised location. But I want to thank the Poker Oasis for donating some prizes. The charity series of poker, Run It Once, and also Chris Fox Wallace donated his new horse book, which was really cool. We got to sell some RecPoker merch. Some couple people walked away looking better than they ever had before. Eric, you got your hat finally after all this time. The Kenny Pickett hat, which it will be known for infamy. And then Eric and I had a hand. So this was one of the hands. I wish Chris Jones was here because it was one of these hands where there's a 5 on the flop and immediately like everyone starts getting like tingles in the back of their mind. Like what's going on here? But Eric, you I think you made some notes. You might remember the action better than me. Why don't you take us through it? And then group, why don't we kind of do a little hand ranging here? If anyone in the YouTube chat can guess what both the hands were before we announce, then I'll give away a great prize.
Oh, you want us not to review?
Let's get okay. Let's see how it goes. I mean, we're gonna reveal it at one point anyway before the night's over.
Okay,
let's see.
So we're 6-handed. It's we had been playing. God, it was close to 7 hours because it was like 1 a.m.
It was getting late.
Yeah, 1 a.m. So Jim opens to $10. The 1-3 game. $10. It had been the standard open for him. So from the low jack, he opens 10. And I choose just a flat from the hijack. So I'm directly to the left of Jim for $10. So folds around. Everybody else folds? Yeah, everybody else folds. And so we go to the flop. So there's $20 in the middle. And the flop is 5 of spades, 4 diamonds, the 4 of clubs. And Jim, here's an interesting thing. He does this little, oh wow, that flop would be hard to hit. I mean, it'd be hard to hit a set on that one. So he does a little speech play. And he bets $10, half pot. Seems pretty standard. I choose to call. So to the turn, it's the queen of clubs, putting a possible flush draw. But again, it started off with a paired board. And here's you're going to have to help me with the betting. I believe you bet like 25, maybe.
I think that's right. Just slightly more than half there, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jim bets 25.
It was 25. It was exactly
Yeah,
25.
it was 25. Yeah. Because I click it back to 50.
Oh, so dirty. So dirty. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember the timing, but Jim did call.
I did call. Yeah.
Then the river is the 4 of hearts. So the board is 5 of spades, 4 diamonds, 4 of clubs, queen of clubs, 4 of hearts. So there are 3 4s on the board. Jim bets, I believe, 50.
Yeah, 50 or 75.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, something like that.
Okay. And then I do just above him in click. I think I go 110.
Yeah. It was just above him in click. And then I announced to the dealer, player is all in, and moved the rest of my chips in. Which wasn't that much more than that at that
Yeah,
point.
it wasn't. Yeah, I had Jim well covered because I had been
he's been sitting on my left for an hour. Yeah, he had me
I had been running really very well.
covered.
So I looked at the board, thought about the possible combos, and I end up calling.
All right. So this is the spot where Jim Gibson has made a spectacular guess in the YouTube chat already. Eric, why don't you announce what your hand was?
5 of diamonds, the 5 of clubs.
Of course it was. He had the Chris Jones, and he was just like that min click on the turn. Eric, when you click that back on the turn, I was like, he's doing the Chris Jones on me right now. It was so clear in my mind that you had pocket fives. And you're not gonna so Jim Gibson guessed correctly. I'd opened ace 4. And that
Offsuit.
Offsuit. It was offsuit. It was offsuit.
That's a horrible open.
That is horrible.
Jack. That's horrible. I'd like to see your range chart, Jim, where that's an acceptable open from the low jack on a 6-handed table.
That is horrible, but it's actually stronger than I expected him to
be. So I got bailed out. I got bailed out on the river. The case
one outer,
literally a one outer to get.
I did the equities.
You did the. Yeah, you ran that one. You ran that one in the solver, Eric. Yeah, it was a pretty special. So Jim Gibson, you've been guessing all sorts of stuff right. We got to get you some amazing prizes, sir. I know you're coming to Running Aces in August, so let me buy you dinner or something. You've been on fire lately in the Twitter guesses and on the podcast for sure. Eric, how much equity did I have like on the river there? Did I have, what was
on the flop? You had 4.6% equity on the flop. On the turn, you had 2.3% on the turn.
Yeah, that's why I just smooth called that click back. You know, I really wanted to realize that equity.
But of course, you had 100% on the river. So I mean, and when you flipped it over, I was like, oh shit, he has queens. I'm like, right. And when you flipped it over and I didn't see a queen, I'm like, what's going on? He does not have the 4th 4.
Oh, you took it like a champ though. You didn't get like disgruntled or like
that's poker.
I've
actually yeah, there's value in just accepting it and moving on.
It's true. Yep, especially when it's amongst such good friends, you know.
Although people at the table's like, are you guys still friends?
Oh yeah, people were checking in. People like wanted to see how we were doing later because there was one other hand where I think I hit top set and you had an overpair where
no, you cracked my aces with queens. You hit a set.
Yeah. Yeah. You can ask Jamel. I only make
I
sets.
know.
Like,
Yes,
people
he
think
has.
I'm a good
Like,
poker player, but I just make a lot
you're
of
as
sets.
tall as I expected, but way luckier than I could have imagined.
Oh, fantastic.
So
Oh man.
let's go back to the turn. Was that where you said, "Oh, I know exactly what he's doing. He has pocket fives," and you
Call.
still decided to call?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Do as I say, not as I do. That popular piece of advice. I was very, very confident that he had pocket fives. But you never know like what part of you is just projecting that because it's Chris's favorite hand, because we make all this fun about pocket fives. You know, I thought he could have had a worse four, maybe, or he could have had like
Did you have any like liquid courage encouraging you as well?
I did. I did. There was a lot of liquid courage. So we started that mix game. We started that meetup game at 6 p.m. And this was like 7 hours in, and we were making quite merry, sir.
Do they
So
do
based
they
upon this
serve
play,
Grolsch there at MGM?
They do
I
not
didn't-
serve Grolsch. They don't
Well, I
serve
didn't
Grolsch
think
like
so.
anywhere. So it was like Modelo or Corona or whatever else was popular at the time. But you're gonna put that in our
So-
rider.
based upon expected value, Eric probably should have been able to pay off his house at the end of that poker session. But it doesn't seem like it quite went
Yeah.
that way.
No, we were talking about it. So Eric and I walked back to the Horseshoe afterwards because Eric, you were registering for was it that seniors event the next day or something? Yeah. And I remember you were like, I think I actually played really well tonight. I was like, you really did. Like, what are the odds? Like, of all the combos of hands to have in those hands, like that was yeah. And like you say, man, that's poker, right? So keep it up in the long term. You'll clean out the fish like me in no time.
It was a really great time, actually.
It was
a great time meeting everybody. It was a fun game. So yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah,
we had a good story. I have a good story.
Yeah, and you got the complimentary hoodie out of that deal, right? That was the $300 free hoodie.
Yes, $300 hoodie.
Oh yeah, that's right. So it was super fun. It was a great event. We're definitely going to do that again. I think we have these tournament stops on our RecPoker road trips, but I'm going to start making sure that we get at least one table set aside at these casinos for a cash game just for RecPoker members, because other people wanted to join our table. They could see how much fun it was, but we had a waiting list for some people that might not be there yet. And a couple of the local grinders who play in Las Vegas full time, one of them said to me specifically, like, listen, man, I haven't had that much fun playing poker in years. And that just put a huge smile on my face, because this is what it's all about, right? Making poker fun, especially if people are, feeling trepidatious, or they're not used to it, they want to dip a toe in. That's what RecPoker is all about. So that was fantastic. A great event. We'll be doing a lot more like that. Phil says the blog was great fun. That's awesome. Some guesses about mostly that I didn't have anything in that hand. Incorrect, sir. Gibber, when he put me on ace four, thought at least it would be suited. Yeah, Jim, come on. How long have you known me? Gibber, yeah. Phil says Jim buying dinner equals a half used peanut butter and jam sandwich. That's not technically true, but I understand where you're coming from. And yeah, Gibber says iced teas are flowing. I don't think I had a single Long Island iced tea on this trip, but it was just substituted. There were plenty beverages coming through, so we didn't have to worry about that. So I will just encourage folks again, August 4th and 5th, Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino, Mecca, as our old man Steve Fredlin likes to refer to it. I'll be there with some of these fantastic folks and a lot of other RecPoker Premium members and community members. There's going to be a bunch of great prizes. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think if you have a player's card, you can get a discount at the hotel. So come and stay for the weekend and join us for breakfast or for some of these social events like I mentioned we'll be having. That'll be a lot of fun. So I think unless there's anything else from the World Series that we want to cover, we should probably go over some home game results and give away a prize in our food bank raffle tonight. So folks, Every show, we like to give away a prize to raise awareness for the plight of food insecurity. Food insecurity is something that exists on a spectrum, and one great way to combat it is if you just pull out your phone right now and Google food bank near me. There's the shot. Eric's got the background in his, if you're on YouTube, you can see the background of all the chips in the middle and the Ace 4 offsuits right out there. Just wasn't meant to be. Just wasn't meant to be. Now, I want to know the smart ass response that Chris Jones is going to give you, Eric, when you tell him about the hand. He's going to say something like, "Oh no, you played it wrong on the river. You're supposed to play pocket fives in such a way where you don't get outdrawn on the river." That'll be like his response or something like that. The guy's such a jerk. Google food banks near me. You'll find a place that you can support either with a few dollars, a few hours of your time, or a non-perishable food item. You might be surprised who needs help. They might be in your neighborhood, they might be in your community, and a great way to help folks is by donating to your local food bank. So if you type the words food bank into the chat right here, as soon as John Somsky goes through some recent home game results, we'll roll a die and see who the winner of a fantastic prize is going to be this week. In the meantime, John Somsky, what's going on in home game land?
Well, we can start with JBT Twin Cities, or JB Twin Cities. She got her first nightly victory for the year.
Way to go, JB.
Spot Conlon, Daniel Kennedy got his second nightly victory for the year.
Nice, Dan.
And Hot Rod Bunny got his or her first nightly victory for the year. The Cisco Kid, 27, Charles Smith, got his first nightly victory for the year.
Right on.
Isma got his second nightly victory for the year.
Back.
And then Evil Roy CA, David Westerveld, got his fourth nightly victory for the year.
Dave doing Dave things.
Doing Dave things. I saw that. Yeah,
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, and this was his 56th victory. However, earlier that day, matter of fact, at the 8 a.m. international event, David Westerveld got his third international victory for the year and his 55th lifetime. So now he's at 56 lifetime victories. He's 6 Silver Lifetime Achievement Award, and it's just still going gangbusters.
He's still feeling that fire. Good for you, Dave. Extremely impressive.
Then we have Jasper Jr., Pat Berry, got his third international victory for the year. And because I went out of order, Poker Geek MN John Somsky got his second daily mixed victory for the year. Then John Lancer, thank you, won the LPP event. So he can contact info at rec.poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
That's right, John Lancer. Congratulations. Send that email, info at rec.poker. We'll set you up with a free month at Learn Pro Poker. You're going to love it there. And I am a little, I laugh every time I say this. Now, I have been in Vegas for the better part of the last few weeks, so I probably have not gotten back to a few people if you've reached out over that time. Phil, I know, for instance, you won the role like 3 weeks ago. So while it's true that this is just a scam to get your email address in particular, I am going to make sure I get back to all the real winners and make sure that they get their prizes this week. So John Lancer, send that email, info at rec.poker, and we'll get you all sorted out. Oh, there's the shot. There's the angle. Look at that. There, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see, yeah, Eric wishes he could block that ace 4 out of existence. But yeah, that's how it looked. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. A beautiful, beautiful thing. It sure was. Yeah. John, congratulations on your win. I'm glad that you're still dipping a toe into these and finding your way to the finish line. It hasn't become this is like 3 years of running our home game club, and you still find yourself titillated and amused. That's got to be a good sign, I think.
Yeah, I still enjoy playing. I wish I'd win more, but I still enjoy playing.
Hey, it's the toughest free poker home game in the world.
Yep,
I mean, it's a tough game. It's very tough to win.
It is a tough game.
I play it 2 or 3 times a week at least, and I haven't been, I've only hit the winner's circle twice this year.
Mm-hmm. It's a tough one. And folks, remember on Tuesday nights, every Tuesday night in July, all you have to do is play in our Play Money home game league like you would normally, and you'll be accumulating points towards the 100K leaderboard contest. So this is your last month. This is the last chance you get a chance to do this. If you have the most points out of our league on Tuesday nights in July, you'll win your way into a qualifying tournament the following weekend, where you can win a $1,000 entry into a Run Good event, a live Run Good event sometime later this summer. So don't snooze on that. If you're only going to play one night a week, join me in the OPA on Tuesday nights. It's always a fun group in there. We have a great time while we're playing, and you can win some real prizes, just like on the Sunday night tournament, winning that LPP prize. And I want to give a big shout out to Eric Romo. I missed the last couple pods live, but I've been catching up as they've come out on the air. Did I hear correctly that he had a three-peat last week?
3 in a row.
Wow.
To the best of my knowledge, I don't believe that has ever happened.
No, I think that's the first time. So hugely impressed by that. Way to go, Eric. Romo goes by GF Hawk, I think, in the home game club. So congratulations to you, sir. And thanks for continuing to be a longtime premium member and for your support. And folks, if you're enjoying the show, nothing would make us happier. Give premium membership a try. If you use the code RecPoker, it only costs you $5 for your first month. I guarantee you're going to find more than $5 worth of value in our premium membership materials. So, and even if you never get it involved, it's a really nice way to support the show, to let us know that you appreciate what we're doing. And it helps me buy John Somsky a cup of coffee about once a quarter for all his help in the home game club. So please don't hesitate if it's crossed your mind. It's always a good time to help us out by giving premium membership a try. Use the code RecPoker and get your first month for only $5. Okay, so I see 3 people here in the food bank drive. I'm going to roll a 6-sider, Chris's least favorite die. Phil, the RRRCCC, and then Luke O. Let's see who the winner is this week. It's a 2. That makes it Phil. Okay, Phil, that means that you've got 2 prizes coming to you. Only one of them is going to be a half-eaten peanut butter and jam sandwich. Oh, wait, no, Joe got in. Joe got in there right at the last second. I think we should probably re-roll just to collect more Phil tears.
Well, and so you didn't really specify. There were 3 players in.
Yes.
And it was a 6-sider.
That's
but
what
you did not say.
Did I not say out loud? Okay.
No, you didn't say how you were, if it was 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6 as a re-roll, or if the 3 people get the 2 consecutive numbers, or you do 1 and 4, or
I'd hate for there to be any controversy or like concern about bamboozling.
Too late.
So we'll just start over. As Joe Rafter,
it's too late for that.
You'll be 4th here, so we'll try this one again. Phil is being really nice though. He says being a RecPoker premium member is the greatest achievement of my life. Phil, that's kind of you to say, but I don't think that's even true. I think you haven't peaked yet, my friend. I can't wait to see what that turns out to be. Okay, if I roll, I hope I roll a 1 for Phil here because he deserves it. But if I don't, I mean, couldn't happen to a worse guy. Let's see what we get. It's a 2. It's a 2 again, which means the RRRCCC, who has won before. So congratulations. All right, tell you what. The RRRCCC, send that email, info@rec.poker. You're going to win a prize. And Phil, you know what? Send the email. We're going to take care of you, Phil. It seems wrong not to. We did roll it earlier. I could get out of it. John Somsky made a really good point, but I'm just so happy to be home. I'm like overflowing with generosity and love here. Let's give 2 prizes away this week. I think that's the right way to handle it. All right. Well, then I guess I got to thank the Running Aces Hotel Racetrack Casino for their support over the years, our fantastic sponsor. We couldn't do it without you. I'm really looking forward to getting over there later this month. John, Rob, Eric, is there anything else we should add to the show before we roll on out of here? Doesn't look like it, so I'll see some of you in the forums edition. And I will say, if you're watching this live, if you're a premium member, you're welcome to join the forums edition. And right after this, it happens over Zoom. There's a link on the website calendar. Go check it out. We're going to be talking about a hand from the Monster Stack in this year's WSOP. But thank you to Rob, Eric, and John. Thank you to Taylor and Doug for being my roommates. Thank you to everyone who made the WSOP as much fun as they did. And thank you to you, the listeners. You make it all happen. So we'll see you next week, everybody. All right.